Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at What the number 1 and number 2, plus a special Academy edition I made of various and sundry What the comics and actually a few other things, but we'll look at that a little later. What the started in 1988, and it was supposed to be a 4-issue miniseries. And I guess it sold really well. And so it went all the way up to issue, 20 something, 25 or something. It lasted way longer than anyone thought. Could be because they got some really big names to be in each issue. Even though this was obviously, you could probably tell by looking at it, kind of a continuation or almost like a rebirth of Not Brand Eck. Just Marvel doing their own parodies of their own characters. Though sometimes they would parody other companies' characters, as we shall see. But, there's some really big names in here. And even if they're not big, they're really great names. So there's some pretty decent stuff in here. Of course, it's mostly pretty goofy fanboy humor. But I gotta say, some of these are kind of clever and funny. But not so much. Not that funny and clever. I basically have saved these over the years for some of the artistic contributions in it. We start off with this cover by John Bogdanov. He's the guy who, he did a lot of Marvel comics in the 80s. It's inked by Al Milgrom. Not very impressive. So we have the contents page here. And this has a little border drawn by Mark Siri. Mark Siri does a lot of the interstitial art in this comic. Every time they need some random little fake ad or something, he draws it. And as you can see already from these pages, I like how they pack it so full. Each issue is just, it's like an old Mad, when they were comics. They just are really cramming as many jokes as they can and goofy ideas and stuff, which is admirable. It's not just, they didn't just cast this off. It really does seem like these guys were having a good time and wanted to make this funny. So this first story here is The Pulverizer, and accounts overdrawn, checks returned for lack of funds. This is written by Peter B. Gillis and penciled by Hilary Barta and inked by John Severin. Yes, you heard that correctly. Not only is Hilary Barta one of my favorite cartoonists, this is probably the main reason I've saved this issue. But John Severin inking him, this is just some gorgeous shit. Really beautiful stuff. Of course, it's a parody of The Punisher. And it's pretty dead on, It's got some pretty okay jokes. But of course, there's it's the law of averages. Every panel has got 4 jokes in it at least. So one out of 100 might make you chuckle. I love the way he draws the Pulverizer, this little stocky little stubby body. The running gag in this is that they keep making fun of the armaments of the Punisher. Because the Punisher, in its heyday was very fetishistic about guns. So they're making up all these crazy, ridiculous sounding guns in very strict detail or laborious detail. Look at this, just fun, typical, all from the Will Elder school. But God, this looks good. Severin inking Barta. It's a really good combo. This is masterful craft on display. Cartoonist craft. More of this gun humor. And then they some of the gun names even are like inside jokes. This one's called the Hammer Grell Cinchbore Switchback Magnum with the stoked Yamaha DX7 flanger. And that's obviously a reference to Larry Hama and Mike Grell. Two guys who served in the military and knew their way around some guns. I love these 3 panels here. This explosion, all this crap flying at him. So lots of cartoony violence, making fun of the Punisher, you know. He totally has to go over the top with the violence. This gun has a part of the name is Callahan Siegel. That's like Dirty Harry's name in the movie, his last name, and Siegel's the director, Don Siegel. I mean, really nerdy stuff like that. This one's the double reverse blowback overhead cam Orzechowski ammo feed. But yeah, most of these, a lot of these are just inside jokes that aren't that funny. But I saved it all these years for this art, and I'm glad I did. It's worth it for the art. This one ends very oddly. Like, I almost feel like I'm missing a page. I don't know if it was to be continued or there was some glitch where the last page was dropped. I guess I kind of get it. I don't know. He's heading to Marvel Comics. Since it turns out that the contraband he's been on the trail for is actually these violent comics called The Pulverizer that are being sold to kids. So he's heading to the Marvel offices. Just seemed a little anticlimactic. Making fun of the classic Charles Atlas ad for the 18 billionth time. But this is with Iron Man. And this is another one of those. This is by Mark Siri. It looks like all he did was trace the original ad and change it a little. Pretty dumb. Next we have the Bower Brats meet Clunk and Dagnabbit. So the Power Pack had just come out at the time. The superhero comic about 4 little kids, and Cloak and Dagger were also popular at the time. So Terry Austin, he wrote this story. June Brigman, who is actually the artist on Power Pack, the normal penciler, she drew it. Also, I'm sorry, and Terry Austin not only wrote it, but he inked over June Brigman, which is really nice. At this time, Terry Austin was kind of pulling back from mainstream comics. Wasn't drawn like every month like I used to. So it was kind of, in 1988, it was a treat getting any Terry Austin. So once again, this is pretty dopey. And the art's not nearly as good. It's cute, though. I mean, you could tell the Terry Austin sheen makes it better. I don't own much June Brigman art, but I remember flipping through her comics and being like, yeah, she's okay. This looks better than I remember because the Terry Austin inks. I like this reference to Strike Force More Tory, popular comic at the time. Strike Force Mozzarella. It's because it's so dumb. I realize that a lot of the humor I like is the dumber it is, the more I'll laugh. I think that makes me dumb. Definitely, you can see the Terry Austin inking here. Kind of tightening up the pencils, sharp, making it more sharp. Pretty fun caricature of Cloak and Dagger here. This one's story's so ridiculous about how aliens have stolen all of our chocolate chip cookies, and then Cloak and Dagger get their powers. And in this, I guess her name's Clunk in this, she can summon wads of cookie dough. And Cloak, with his, well, I'm sorry, in this, his name's Clunk. I'm sorry, she's Dagnabbit. He's Clunk, and with his cloak, he becomes a living portal to a dark, chocolatey place full of chocolate chips. So, of course, everyone's after him to make him cookies. I like that panel a lot right there. Very silly. They meet Galactus. And turns out Galactus is really Bob Big Boy. under his helmet. Very silly. Here's another fake ad. You be wasted, which is making fun of those old martial arts ads that were in comics. They were pretty much gone by the 80s, though. This is definitely for old school comic fans. In the 70s, there were lots of ads for, like, you know, learn Taekwondo, fight your enemies. This one is kind of interesting, though, where it just degenerates into this repetitive nonsense, gobbledygook. It just seemed really, like, bizarre for, like, I imagine a lot of kids who read this were 12, and they were probably just, like, confused as hell. I mean, I was confused as hell. So even the bullpen bulletin page, like every Marvel comic had, even this is a joke. Everything's, you know, a parody of something. Bullish bulletins. Of course, they have to parody the X-Men, since that was Marvel's gravy train. Probably still is. And this one's called When Titans Bunch. And we see that era's X-Men. This is a script by Peter Gillis. Art by John Bagdanov. God damn it, I can't say that name. Bagdanov and Al Milgrom, just like the cover. Definitely some insider jokes here, too. Lots of nerdy jokes. Making fun of that Cypher guy, the biggest loser mutant ever. In this one, he has the mutant power to detect overwriting in any language. It's kind of funny. That woman, Magma from the New Mutants, her name's Smegma in this. I don't know if at one point Smegma wasn't naughty or something. The kids are debating about how to pronounce Magneto or Magneto. Peter Gillis, I realized from reading these, he was pretty good at this, like, mad type satire. Basically, these could be a lot worse. They could be way worse. But they're pretty good. They're kind of clever and funny sometimes. I like this little Jack Kirby homage / parody with his crazy forced perspective. Even the characters are like, how come his hand got so big? Because that's what Jack Kirby would do. And then we bring in everyone. We bring in the Avengers at the time. They're called the Offengers. That's pretty dumb. They bring in the New Mutants, and it turns into a big Donnybrook. Fantastic Four show up. Who I think in this one are called Fantastical Four, something stupid like that. The guest host Avengers. And this interesting X Factor show up, and they do a total Walt Simonson pastiche here. It doesn't really look like Walt Simonson, but it definitely kind of gets some of the beats of Walt Simonson art. It's not bad. They even sign their names, Bagdanov and Milgrom, sign it like Walt Simonson, so it looks like a dinosaur. So this is just full of, like, nerdy humor. We have Alfalfa Flight. That's so stupid. All the characters in this Canadian super team look like Alfalfa from the Little Rascals. Very, very silly. So they just bring in everyone eventually. It's kind of like parodying the whole Secret Wars thing. I kind of like these cute little crows of doom that the Scarecrow has. Just really nice cartooning like that. It looks like something that would be in an underground comic or something. The Beyonder shows up. I'm sure he has a different name. I just don't see what it is. Everyone's got to have like a funny name. So here's the second reason why I kept this comic, guys. So this one is called Secret War 3, Written by Gwen Dibley, who I suspect is a pseudonym. Never heard of that name. But Steve Ditko penciler and John Severin inking Steve Ditko. And guys, look at this. This is some really amazingly cool art. Even the credits are great here. But look at this opening page here. It's like basically supposed to be the universe. But of course it's zany. You know, there's a football instead of a planet of baseball. And this is about the Watcher, Uatu. And yeah, I'll find out his dumb name in a second. And he's, talking about all the alternate realities. Oh, in this, I guess they call him the Watchman. So we see Dr. What the hell's his name? I don't know. Dr. Doofus? Yeah, it's Dr. Doof. It's so weird, first of all, seeing Steve Ditko, be funny, draw funny. I know he did a few times, very few times in his history, in his career. But then these John Severin inks really make it interesting. Like, look at this crazy art. This just looks like some 80s black and white comic published by Fantagraphics or something. Especially this panel. So weird. It's kind of like bizarre humor. I almost think Steve Ditko wrote this. That's who Gwen Dibley is. Because it does have that almost kind of crazy sense of humor. Like, not crazy, zany fun. Just wow, you're crazy. Your sense of humor is so off that I think you're probably nuts. Galacticus shows up. Some great stuff. You can totally see the Ditko coming through there, but Severin, totally makes it great. Even greater. Just like he used to do on Sergeant Fury. With that Dick Ayers guy. Who's dull as a post, his pencils. But John Severin make it look like him. So this is also making fun of the Secret Wars phenomena. And we see the Beyonder again show up. It was very big news at the time. All these crossovers. It was kind of the beginning of that. This one also makes fun of the Magneto pronunciation. Magneto. Kind of funny. So weird. I'd never guessed that was Steve Ditko in a million years. And so just like in Secret Wars, the Beyonder is like, I'm going to get every villain and superhero on the Earth and put them on this planet. So, of course, it's so packed, this planet. Steve Ditko just draws them all as weird stick figures. And then I love this ending, even though it makes no sense. So it's so crowded, this planet, there's no room for heroes and villains. And if they had one more villain, it's just not going to be able to handle it. And the Earth is eclipsing this moon. And then we see, it looks like the moon's falling out of its orbit, maybe? And I love it. And it's smashing through the bottom of the panel. Watcher jumps off just in time, grabs the panel border, and then we see him falling. The panel border does not hold. And that's the end of the story. But this, to me, is just, always love this kind of trickery in comics, where they play with kind of fourth wall stuff, but fourth panel stuff. And then we have the mail, the letter page, which these are all fake because the comic doesn't have letters yet. And then we have a fake ad with a nice Terry Austin cartooning, obviously making fun of the famous artist school that was in the back cover of many a comic book of my childhood. Next, we have What the Number 2, with a cover by John Byrne. So remember, this is 1988, and it's Superman versus Fantastical Four. I think Fantastical Four was the name in the Not Brand Eck issues from the 60s. I think a lot of the names in here are the same names. Like the Incredible Bulk, I think, was the same Not Brand Eck character. But this one, he's a crossing over universes. He's got Superman. And the weird thing about this comic is John Byrne has just taken over Superman. Well, 2 years before this. He's taken over the whole Superman family of titles pretty much. So it's kind of interesting that they got John Byrne, who's now at DC, to parody Superman for a Marvel comic. Very strange. I think a big part of the reason is that Jim Shooter is gone. And within these comics, there are actually a couple of pot shots taken at Jim Shooter. I'm sure deservedly so. So here we go. My bad guy, my enemy. And we just get all this, jokey parody of Superman and Fantastic Four. Jerry Ordway inked this over John Byrne's words and pictures. And Jerry Ordway, of course, did most of a lot of John Byrne's Fantastic Four inking. I didn't mention that. John Byrne had also, 2 years before this, got off one of the longest runs on Fantastic Four ever. So, kind of interesting. They got the source to parody his own stuff. I mean, we've seen this a million times before, right? But here he's called Dr. Bloom. So they don't keep the name straight. Whenever they do parodies, it's not like a cohesive parody universe. I like this, how Dr. Doom mistakes Lex Luthor as the Kingpin. His name's Rex Ruthless in this. The keeper of the comic code shows up. Says there's too much swearing going on in this comic. And meanwhile, we see the Fantastical Four fighting Superman. We keep seeing a plane with a banner that says, "It's Bite the Hand That Feeds You Week." Obviously, John Byrne making a reference to what's going on here. I think this is really fun cartooning. John Byrne being all zany, basically trying to be Super Duper Man from the classic Mad story. I'd rather see this than anything like post-1985 John Byrne. Like straight stuff, And then Sue Storm shows up. Of course, her name's Shrew Storm, the inevitable girl, which just isn't funny at all. It doesn't even make sense. And Superman starts pitching woo on her. He's like, "Hello, who are you?" And it seems like she's pretty taken with him. So this has been a while since I put up a video. Like usually I've been trying to put up videos every day, at the very least every other day. It's been like 3 days. And because these comics are freaking packed. Not that I had a lot of time to read anyway, but like 3 nights in a row, I was like, okay, I'm sure I'll finish these tonight. But every issue is so packed with panels and captions and eye candy. And it really took me a long time to read these. Like, look at this page. I like this weird Rex Ruthless here. It's a pretty interesting thing. Superman punches him so hard all of the rocks just fall off his body. Yeah, this looks pretty good to me. I wouldn't mind reading goofy comics like this with this kind of art. It ends really strangely, though. So, we see Rex Ruthless. I guess this is supposed to be a funny gag. How he's offering 1 million lollipops to one of the girls from Power Pack? Like he's some dirty old pervert? I don't get this at all. It's just weird. So here's another reason why I've kept some of these comics. The retirement of Nick Fury, ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this is written by Fred Hembeck, who kind of figures, why come up with parody names of all these characters? I'll just change the spelling. So a lot of these characters, he doesn't even make a clever nickname or parody name. But this is the reason why I've kept this. This is John Severin Pencils and Inks. And this is some nice stuff. Really nice stuff. So we see Nick Fury. He lives in this, little nice quiet suburb now that he's retired. Kind of sounds like he's been put out to pasture by S.H.I.E.L.D. I like how even in retirement he wears all this crazy shit. So the neighbors introduce themselves. They're this nice, seemingly nice old couple. Really like the cartooniness of the husband here. Kind of reminds me of Archie's dad or something. But Nick is drawn just like very John Severin-y, typical war comic thing. And what we find out is that the wife, she's actually part of the Hydra Ladies Auxiliary, who are kind of retired. But she calls up her old cohorts, and all they want to do is trade recipes. But she's like, guys, this is serious. Nick Fury has moved into our neighborhood. I like that panel right there a lot. And so the women get their shit together, and they put on their Hydra uniforms. That's kind of funny, seeing these old grannies dressed up as Hydra. The Hydra Ladies Auxiliary. So, of course, they plan to kill him. So, Nick gets a visit from Dum Dum Dugan and, what's her name? The Contessa, his love interest. And I guess they're still at S.H.I.E.L.D. and they're coming to visit. Once again, guys, look at all this, how wordy this is. The Contessa does have this very aristocratic name. And in here, it takes two panels, it spreads across two panels. Very ridiculous. The Contessa Valenti Ronzoni, Anna Maria Alberghetti, Cecilia Andretti Rigoletto, Merlo Allegro. It just goes on, And we find out that Dum Dum Dugan, he's kind of been leeching off of Nick Fury's anti-aging serum. Just by being around him, he's got like a contact high. He gets some of it. So he's basically like, Nick, maybe we should hang out more. Since you haven't been around the S.H.I.E.L.D. office, I haven't been feeling the same. So they say their goodbyes. And then the neighbor lady shows up, and she tricks him to come to their meeting, supposedly to speak about being a secret agent. And, of course, they just want to kill him. They use this giant fryer. It looks like some crazy Kirby invention, but it's not. It's just a ridiculous giant fryer. Dum Dum Dugan comes in, trips over the electrical cord, saves the day, depowers the fryer, and that's basically it. Pretty goofy humor from Fred Hembeck. There's a lot of groaners in here, but he does tell a good story. It's I thought this was like a well-told, goofy comic. Like this could be in an old Dell comic or something. Here's Terry Austin's famous Inker School, continued kind of from last issue's cover. And this is the test you're supposed to take to see if you're prepared and or ready to go to Terry Austin's Inker School. Pretty funny captions, text. Just making fun of those ads. We have some guest artists here. John Byrne, Brett Blevins, Fred Hembeck. Doesn't say who this guy is. But all this other stuff with the cute pig character, that's Terry Austin. Basically, it just seems like if you send him enough money, that's what really matters. This is very interesting. So it's Woof or Aim. Really bad punny name for Wolverine. But it's penciled by Mike Mignola. Now, this is at least 3-4 years before, Mike Mignola became the Mike Mignola we know. Hellboy, even before Hellboy, I guess it was that Dracula miniseries at Topps that kind of was like, whoa, what? This is a style. And get this, guys, inked by Al Williamson. So Mignola Williamson. This is some really nice looking art. And I love the caricature of Wolverine. Just to make him all like stubby and even stockier and stubbier than normal. Of course, we've seen this joke many times. The Swiss Army knife coming out of Wolverine's hand. a lot of different of the parodies use this. But this is some good looking stuff. Colors are really nice in this. They're by Petra Scotes, who she didn't do much in the 80s. She was, she was the queen of 70s coloring. She was one of the best. She was up there with like Tatiana Wood, and but I think she was even better. Actually, I think she was the best. And it seemed like the 80s she kind of went away, but I don't know if she came out of retirement just to get the chance to eat this gorgeous art. I wouldn't be surprised. This comic's very goofy, as you can imagine. It's very dumb. But, well, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you who wrote it. It's written by Al Milgrom. Which, Al Milgrom hasn't written much, but there were a few jokes in here that I kind of chuckled a little. But for the most part, like I said, it's the law of averages. You just throw 1,000 jokes against the wall, hopefully a few will make you chuckle. That's the MO of this comic. But I really like this art. This is some sharp stuff. Of course, we get to see more X-Men parodies. I think in this one, Aurora is called Aurora. Psylocke is Shylock. The Dazzler's the Razzler. Pretty dumb. Of course, Rogue is Brogue. Wolverine chops her lips off. That's such a weird thing. So she can't kiss him. This one's so dumb, I kind of like it. Havoc is Ham Hock. Okay, I don't think I like it, but it's just so dumb that I almost want to like it. Yeah, pretty nice. So now we see Mariko, his love. We see ninjas, making fun of that whole part of the Wolverine mythos. Her name is Mary Jo. That's so dumb. And then they end up going to the Hellfire Club. And we see the whole time they've been alluding to, like, what I do. My name's Wolverine, and I'm the best there is at what I do. What I do isn't very nice. And we find out what it is. It's dressing up in women's underwear. This is like, you'd think that Marvel would like retroactively ban this comic. But I love this, how all the people in the Hellfire Club and Mary Jo, they're just like, oh man, he looks good. Yum. Fashion supplied by Forbish of Hollywood. That's why these comics are so weird to me. Like, they didn't have to get all these good artists. They could have just, I don't know, crapped out some goofy stuff. But I'm kind of fascinated. I almost want to get more of these. Because there's more Hilary Barta in later issues. I looked it up on the internet guide. And it looks like there's some other interesting, like, there's more John Severin. And I think there might be a little more Steve Ditko, but I'm not sure. So here we have Dr. Deranged. And this is Peter B. Gillis' story again. Phil Foglio on art. The guy who did Myth Adventures and did all those kind of fantasy / funny comics over the years. Usually like black and white stuff. It's probably the only time Phil Foglio drew for Marvel. That was one of his characters there. I can't remember his name, but he had a bunch of graphic novels or comics about him. This one's kind of interesting. First, we see Dr. Deranged hanging out with all the mystical characters of the Marvel Universe. And I don't know if you guys ever read X-Men, but the character Magic, Ileana Rasputin, she has this demon familiar named Sim, who's an obvious homage to Dave Sim and Cerebus. And they even play that up even more. She's like, my demon is only showing up in black and white, just like Cerebus. So Dr. Deranged goes to this, it almost seems like he goes to Cynosure from Grimjack, where all the universes meet. They call it Censure, Dimensional Crossroads. And this is kind of interesting for a Marvel comic. We see Howard Cruz's barefoots. We see Bean World. We see Sam and Max. We see Asterisk and Obelix. Kind of neat. Then we see this hot woman in fishnet stockings come up and kind of woo Dr. Deranged. Be like, hey, come with me. Let's go to someplace private. And what she does, actually, is lure him behind this door, and then she slams the door shut on him. And on the door, it says AC. So, and then she puts on her top hat, and we realize it's Zatanna. And she just wanted to get out of the AC universe, and she had to, like, replace herself with another sorcerer. So now Doctor Strange is in the DC universe. I'll just call it what it is. It's not the AC universe. It's the DC universe. So we meet the Fandom Stranger. So it's the Phantom Stranger, but he's a total total nerd. I kind of like these color holds here. It's like a little psychedelic crap going on. Dr. Feet shows up. So dumb. So it's Dr. Feet, but he's got a shoehorn for a head and bare feet. And his feet can shoot mystical blasts. He meets Dead Man, who's basically a Grateful Dead fan, hippie dude. And then he meets the Spatula, who's the Spectre. Once again, it's pretty dopey stuff. They meet Anti-Monitor, who's, Anti-Monitor from Crisis on Infinite Earths, but he's anti, so he's got a little gray hair. Like an auntie. And then Doctor Strange jumps out of this universe. He doesn't like it there. And he ends up in a universe that seems like just the normal world. And he's kind of liking it. He's like, it's just like the world outside my window. It's like a whole new universe. And this is a total inside joke to the new universe, which started in 1986, was already over by this time, and basically gets obliterated. At least the city of Pittsburgh does. That was like a big kind of finale of the whole universe. So we see everything white out. Doctor Strange is in Pittsburgh, or Dr. Deranged, I should say. Very insular fanboy humor. Another bullish bulletins. I couldn't find out. Some of these drawings are pretty good of these fake artists. And here's another fake ad. We've seen this a million times before, making fun of those little novelty things in comics. Seeing if there's anyone worth telling you guys about. Nah, not really. You've seen it all before. So here, guys, is my Academy edition. This was the back cover of, I believe, of What the Number 19. But it was a flip issue. So it was easier to just have this be the cover and everything go this way. We have here Deranged Tales, which is basically they're talking about the flip books of the 60s. Like Tales of Suspenders, Journey into Misery, and Tales to Admonish. But I guess the best one was Deranged Tales. And I kind of like this idea here, this silly mashup, where it's Dr. Fury and Nick Deranged, Agent of Mystic. So it's mashing up Doctor Strange and Nick Fury. This is by Doug Rice and Hilary Barta on inks, the cover. We got the mail page, which I believe is now publishing Real Letters. And this story is so nice. When Worlds Collide. Really dumb title, but it's another Nick Fury tale. Once again spelled totally different. But S.H.I.E.L.D. is spelled the same. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Words, pencils, Words and Pencils by Doug Rice, inks by Hilary Barta. And they give a shout out to Jim Steranko, and you can already see why. This is a total homage to Jim Steranko, and it's actually quite good. So this comic is all about the yucks, right? Making fun of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I gotta say, this is like better than most Marvel comics, straight comics from that time. It's actually like chock full of like spectacle and action. And I was just like, I would probably read this every month if I was a kid back then. More so than Sleepwalker or something. Or Kickers Inc. But yeah, some really nice Steranko pastiches here. So here we, Dum Dum, the Contessa, Agent Quarterbrain, his name is. In this one, they just put an H at the end of Hydra. That's as clever as they could come up with. But this one, Doug Rice, is pretty good. There's some, I can't read the whole thing to you, but there's some clever word balloons in here. Look at this. So it's kind of interesting. He's doing Steranko, but this looks like Galassi, who was like an acolyte of Steranko. So it's almost like he's going down the evolutionary chain. So the big villain in this is Scorpio, who is a big villain in the Nick Fury comics, but he's called Scorpio-Yo. Look at this page, though. This is a great page. Even though these captions are all silly. But this is just awesome. I guess the only goofy thing about the art is his anatomy is exaggerated, like Megaton Man, but otherwise, this is just like, wow, this is a wicked superhero page from the 70s. From the early 70s. Of course, the helicarrier has a Goodyear logo. And then they even do these great cover overlays. Look at this. This is like great Steranko op art, psychedelic knockoff stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot the helicarrier even as an eye patch. That's kind of funny. And so basically, through some hoo-ha, some cosmic hoo-ha that Scorpio-Yo does, I guess they go to another dimension, like the alternate dimension where Hydra are the good guys, I guess. And Nick Fury is the head of Hydra, and Dum Dum Dugan still has his mustache over his mask. So now it's almost like a antimatter and matter universes meeting. So look at this great 2-page spread of the Hydra head and the heck carrier, and confronting each other. The two Nick Furies from each alternate reality. This is like pretty fun action shit. If I read this as just a normal straight comic, I'd be like, oh, awesome. This is wicked. Look at this. This is great. I like this, how Nick Fury is so out of date that he just grabs the coolest looking weapon he can find. But this isn't a weapon at all. It's just it's like some water cooler. But it looks like some cool Steranko designed weapon. So he grabs it. So then I guess Nick Fury starts falling and he wakes up in his bed and the Contessa's there. She says, oh, honey, you had a nightmare. You want to talk about it? And he says, oh, yeah, I was in this other world, this alternate reality. And it was basically like the other guys were in charge, being led by another version of me. Fighting those guys all over again was bad enough, but to take on another Nick Fury. And then he says, Hail Hydra. So it's actually a pretty good twist at the end. It's actually Nick Fury wakes up in bed, but it's the Hydra world Nick Fury. Because, of course, he thinks he's the good guy. Everyone thinks nobody thinks they're the villain. So, I like that story. That was pretty fun, but man, look at this. Dr. Deranged by Hilary Barta, with Hilary Barta art. This is so great. Look at that, just coloring in here. Everything about this is so good looking. Dr. Deranged in Search of Kleenex. So this is written by Barta and Rice and penciled by Barta. Actually, I think it's penciled and inked by Barta. Maybe that's why it looks so good. Paul Mounts does the coloring, which is commendable. Looks really nice to me. I like this, how the spirit's in the corner saying, hey, isn't that my window? Because Doctor Strange's window that Ditko designed, well, he stole it from Will Eisner from the spirit's mausoleum. Tons of chicken fat in this. All the bookshelves, of course, have references to something. Instead of Wong, his name is Bong. So apparently Clea's missing. Her name's Kleenex in this. Actually, I wanted to point out, look how good those classic letters are. Like very, like classic old Ditko, Doctor Strange. So Bong says, yeah, Kleenex is gone. And all of a sudden, Dr. Deranged is like, oh, God, what dark forces have taken her? I gotta go. And Bong's like, wait, no, hold on a second. But he doesn't listen. So his astral self leaves his body. And Mickey Mouse is there saying, I hear you need a new apprentice. So Dr. Deranged is flying around. He sees a Baron Mordodo is up to no good. Turns out he has nothing to do with it. And, God, love this stuff. I would read 500 pages of this Dr. Deranged business. Then he goes to the dream dimension to see if Nightmare knows anything. And this is like a parody of the Ditko dimension. Most people do homages to it. But look at this. It's like Rat Fink, big head Daddy Froth shit going on. And it's just all... It's like the Ditko dimension if it was way grosser and slimier and scummier. So, of course, Nightmare doesn't know what he's talking about. These pages look so good to me. Everything about them. Here's a little crazy surrealism as he's traveling through dimensions. I like how the mindless ones are holding Quail for President signs. And a lot of you youngins probably won't know this, but he was basically the J.D. Vance of his day. Even more so. He was basically known for being a dummy and one of the worst vice presidential nominees of all time. I mean, now the bar's so low, he looks like a great vice president now. By the hovering hoops of hula. That's what a Dr. Deranged spells to... like this. He uses them against the mindless ones, but they just like it. They start doing the hula hoop. Just seeing these mindless ones do hula hoops is very cute. So nothing is stopping these mindless ones. Until he summons up a... I don't know, it looks like he summons up a big band. I guess they don't like that the music. And that now he confronts Dormammu, who I'm sure has a silly name. He's Dormammu. So it was Mordodo, and now it's Dormammu. And Doctor Strange realizes he can get him by saying, hey, did you know your head's on fire? That's just a great panel all around. And he like starts running. Ah, my head's on fire. Pretty dumb. Same thing happened when I said that to Michael Jackson, thinks Dr. Deranged. Too soon at the time. But all of this art to me looks like, I mean, they make Doctor Strange look a little silly, but so much of this is way better than any Doctor Strange comic I remember from my childhood. The art would be so... I wish these guys took over Doctor Strange, and, you know, just played it a little straighter. didn't make Stephen Strange look so goofy. So the big gag at the end of this is he comes back. Bond says, I tried to tell you she's fine. She just left you because you're a shitty boyfriend. Here's a postcard she sent. And then we see Doctor Strange just drinking, getting drunk, drowning his sorrows in the last panel. Man, that's so good. This makes me totally want to hunt down those other what-thas. Because there's at least 4 issues that have, like, Pulverizer stories by Barta. And they're never going to reprint these, I don't think. Speaking of Barta, so this is where the Academy bit comes in. So, with glue and scissors, because this what the issue had a lot of crap in it, so I cut it out. And then, so Dark Horse Comics had its own parody comic for a while. I think it was called Stupid. It lasted 1 issue, but it had this great Hilary Barta story parodying Grimjack, which I was a big fan of Grimjack at the time, too. I still love the character. I love those old Grimjacks. It says, now entering the parody dimension is Centerville, where the dimensions meet and party down. On one side of the street, they eat quiche. On the other side, they eat hot lead. This is pretty goofy. So this is obviously Hilary Barta drawn. Whenever Hilary Barta has someone shoot someone, there's giant holes in their body with no gore. So this is called Dim Jack. Hilary Barta does the art and story in this. It does say Stephen O. D. Sullivan, script doctor. So I don't know if he probably gave him some jokes, So he goes to Marx's bar instead of Munden's bar. In the comic, that's what Grimjack owns a bar. Now entering the silly plot dimension. So this thing, once again, very much like a old mad, just packed with chicken fat and eye candy and eyeball kicks. So much stuff in this. I really like this caricature of Dim Jack. Oh, man. This panel coming at you in 3D. I'm so tired of this gag. I swear to God, when are they cartoons going to stop doing that? Oh, he's crying so much, it's filling up the room and he's drowning. I don't think it was ever funny. So apparently, some guy came in the bar and killed Dim Jack's best friend, Big Black Guy. It's all one word. In the Grimjack comic, there was a guy called Blackjack Mac, who's Grimjack's best friend. I thought that was just so dumb and funny that instead of Blackjack Mac, he's Big Black Guy. And so he's crying his sorrows away because he's dead. He's reminiscing about when they first were little kids, toddlers, and they met and became soul brothers. And so then he realizes, I'll find his killer. So he sees these big, huge footprints. And very ineptly, that's why he's called Dim Jack, he hunts down the killer. So if you know anything about Grimjack, this is obviously, it's a good parody. Like, Hilary Barta knows Grimjack. In fact, I think he inked some stuff in there. Look at this great art here. So he continues to ineptly look for this killer. These pages are kind of glued together a little too much. Godzilla makes a cameo, steps on Dim Jack. And then he actually ends up in the Bigfoot dimension. And we see all the Bigfoot, goofy comic characters. Calvin and Hobbes are there. That koala from E-Man. Mickey Mouse, obviously, in shadow, so they won't get sued by DC. Oh, no, I ripped out a page when I did that. That glue was the only thing keeping it on. So this continues. It's actually it's kind of funny stuff. There's some good jokes in here. And It turns out Dim Jack's bartender was behind the whole thing. He killed a big black guy, and now he's killing Dim Jack. I keep wanting to call him Grim Jerk. It seems like that would have been a much better parody name. Then we have a little backup, Mundane's Bar, which was always the backup in Grim Jack. So it's kind of neat. And this is just some silliness. This is actually script pencils by Brian Thomas, and Hilary Barta just inks this. So this is weird, guys. So this next thing I have here, there was a comic in, I believe, the 90s called Death Race 2020. It was from the quickly aborted Roger Corman Cosmic Comics line. And it was a continuation of Death Race 2000, fun sci-fi comic, or I guess I didn't think so. That's why I cut these out instead of just keeping them. But they had these backups. And one of the editors at Cosmic Comics used to work for Fantagraphics. So they got all these really interesting independent artists to do these one-page things that were basically like celebrity car crash corner. So there'd just be little, these little mini bios of celebrities who died in car crashes over the years. And we start off with Jay Stevens doing everything on this page. This is about Jack Johnson, the famous boxer from the turn of the century, who just broke through many boundaries and just seems like a remarkable man. This makes me want to read more about him. But he died in a car crash, so hence he has earned a page in this series. Really like this page. Just this whole motif as a design element for the whole page. Some nice looking stuff. Next we have Shane Oakley doing Jane Mansfield, Celebrity Car Crash Corner. This, I love his cartooning. Just really angular and really fun. The colors look great too. So this is Jane Mansfield's death. Love that last panel of her headless zombie running through the graveyard. This one's Celebrity Car Crash Corner, the death of J.K. J.K., I guess, was the most beloved president in Brazil before Brazil fell to fascism. He was popularly elected. They kept trying to have coups on him, and he kept thwarting them until he couldn't thwart him anymore. This is written and drawn by Fabio Zimbres. Never heard of this guy. And you could tell by his art style that, just very alternative cartoonist. So this is what's so cool about these Cosmic Comics, that they would put just as filler, just have cool shit like this. And here's young Dave Cooper before he was great Dave Cooper. And this is about Cliff Burton, the Metallica bass player. So this is about his car accident. Kind of a dumb framing device of just these two stoner doofuses. I'm sure Dave Cooper would have done this so much better just 5 years later. Then we have Bob Fingerman, looking very much like Kyle Baker. This is Margaret Mitchell, the woman who wrote Gone with the Wind. And we have Pat Moriarty doing Jackson Pollock. I did not know he died in a car accident. But this is some nice Pat Moriarty. Sometimes I could take or leave that guy, but this is some great cartooning, I think. So then I got to flip it. I'll show you the actual front cover. Beautiful Hilary Barta piece, pencils and inks. He does a lot of covers near the end, too. All through the 20s of he does almost every cover. Even that makes me want to buy them, just to have the covers by him. And here's the contents page. Probably that Mark Siri guy again. So there you go, guys. What the 1 and 2 and our special Academy edition. So I hope you enjoyed looking at these. I know they're kind of goofy. But, I don't know, for quarter bin stuff, there's some really valid stuff in here. God, just that Ditko story inked by Severin, I think that's historically important to me. That's pretty wicked, neat stuff. And like, I won't shut up about it, I know, but I fucking love Hilary Barta, and I really want everything he's ever done, every page he's ever drawn. So that's reason enough for me to have him, but I don't know. You judge for yourself. I showed you what's in these, and, you know, most of the jokes are pretty corny, but there's some really nice art in here, and some of the jokes are pretty funny. A very small handful of the jokes are kind of clever, and kind of gave me a chuckle. So that's it for today's video, guys. Hope you liked it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.